Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our review of The Mummy, the 2017 edition, I'm going to call it. Joining me to talk it out, really get into some analysis on this film is the guys, Connor.
Hello.
Benny.
Hello.
The guys. I don't know why.
The guys.
We were really waiting for this one. Crazy. This is kicking off Universal Monsters, Dark Universe, Monster, Shared Universe, Monster,
Dark Universe.
I've never heard monster said in a film more times. I reckon Russell Crowe said it about 7 times in this film.
He must have. And every time it was impactful.
And evil. Evil and monster.
Boys, welcome to a new world of gods and monsters. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a great stay already. So in the lead up to this film, guys, how have you kind of been looking at it? What have you been expecting?
They've been hyping up this Dark Universe lately a lot. They've really been putting a lot of wheels into motion. No one, I think, though, was really excited for this movie in any way. I had fairly low expectations coming up to this. I don't think the trailer's very good. One of them had Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones in it. That was about the most interesting thing about it.
I remember that. That was
I love
pretty
that song.
Yeah. So I sat down for this movie not expecting much.
Yeah. It's weird going into a film, and thinking, I hope it's as good as the 1991 or 1990s Brendan Fraser film.
Yeah.
Like that's a bizarre thought to have.
Everyone's really
come
come around on that movie in like a positive way.
So much.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether it's just people really genuinely enjoyed that film you don't normally go to that film and they're like, what's your favorite film? Or it's just in this kind of defense since The Mummy's come out. I've always enjoyed the film. I've always really loved it. A lot of
it's nostalgia.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to go back to and defend strongly.
Well, it's that kind of B-grade action 90s film kind of phenomena where it doesn't have to be a great film to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just like got fun moments in it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Wisely enough, they've come at this from a completely new angle. It's not meant to be a remake in any way whatsoever. It's meant to be a completely new take on the Mummy mythos.
It's funny going into a film where, if we weren't doing this podcast, I don't necessarily know if I would have checked this film out.
Yeah.
I would have probably given it a miss, to be honest. Yeah.
And it kind of was exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for shared universes. I probably would have ended up going to see it.
I might not have seen it in the theaters. I might have waited until later, like Netflix or...
So for me, this film, I thought it was a valiant effort. I think that the director, Alex Kurtzman, did a pretty damn good job, and he threw in a lot of interesting things, and a lot of the gags. And when I say gags, I don't mean the laughs, but I mean the stunts or the set pieces. There was some really well executed stuff, and
Tom Cruise movie.
And some interesting stuff done with the horror elements as well. But as I said, I think this was a valiant effort. I thought it was an okay movie, and it was pretty much what I expected. I think where the film falters is in the agenda that it has to set up this dark universe. And I think when in the second half of the film where it goes and explores that stuff and really sets it up, I felt the film really lost a lot of gas. And by the end, the third act, I kind of just really wanted it to wrap up and head home and get a pizza.
Yeah.
This movie is definitely one of two halves, very distinct halves. I when it started, I was surprised at how engaged I was. I thought it was really funny, which surprised me a lot because that did not come across in the trailers whatsoever.
Dude, that first half up until they get into the plane, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking great.
I was having a really good, I was pretty in love with it. And
same.
Usually when I'm that on board with a movie, I'll kind of forgive the rest of it because once I'm on board, I'm on board. But yeah, I really came out of this being like the back half was not spectacular, unfortunately. But the first half I really enjoyed. And the Tom Cruise stunts are on top form again in this. So much practical stuff. They really... Just doing dangerous shit. Like Tom Cruise's quest to die on a movie set just keeps going on and on.
Yeah. I thought that this film was neither good enough nor bad enough to really be interesting in any way. It is kind of the perfect example of a middling film. the aspects of this film that I thought were going to be most interesting, the things that I thought were going to actually capture my attention and really hook me into this film, didn't end up doing that. I did think that it gave a valiant effort at being this kind of lighthearted and funny action adventure film. But I don't think they quite got there. I think they started in that first 20 minutes that you guys are talking about. I think that there was some good attempts at that. But nothing really kind of hit where it needed to hit.
You know what the first half of this movie is a really solid Uncharted adaptation. Not a direct adaptation, of course, but tonally and just the adventure thing going on with the humor and the characters. With Tom Cruise as kind of a Nathan Drake character, it was really exactly what I would like to see out of an Uncharted film. That's why I was so kind of on board with it. But I was very cognizant of the fact that it would not last, because there was a lot of table setting to be done for the dark universe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is going to end eventually. And it did. It really did.
You know what? Somewhat ironically, and I did just mention this, that the part that I thought was going to hook me in the most, and we talked about this beforehand, which was that there seems to be this kind of organization that deals with dark forces and monsters and all that kind of stuff. I was actually quite excited to get to that point.
The BPRD.
Yeah, because I thought that was going to be where I was going to get some really interest and dig my teeth into this film. And I think that was a massive missed opportunity in this film. I think they did a little bit too much setting the scene for more and a little less delving into something that should have really kind of made this film its own, instead of trying to make this film the beginning of something larger.
This film, in so many ways, felt like a pastiche. Like I felt a little bit of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Felt a little bit of Hellboy, a little bit of the Old Mummy, a little bit of Indiana Jones, a little bit of Sherlock Holmes even. Like I just felt it was kind of cobbled together, and a Tom Cruise movie, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this middle ground that didn't really forge its own identity. And I'm with you. I really enjoyed that exploration, that adventure film. That was the front half, and then the back half when they're in London, it didn't have that same level of excitement. One thing that I really, really loved about this film, and was something I noticed at the beginning, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I am 99% sure this film was shot on celluloid film, 35 millimeter, and I think that's because Alex Kurtzman is a protege of J.J. Abrams. He's part of that family. And JJ loves shooting on 35 mil, and this film didn't have that digital sheen that a lot of films had. It had,
but it was pretty good looking.
Yeah, it really, the photography in this film was outstanding, and hats off once again. I'm going to say it. I've got a fourth hat, guys.
Yeah.
Hats off to Alex Kurtzman. I think he did a good job in that regard.
You say it didn't have that digital sheen, and that extends to the special effects, which I think were used very sparingly overall. Like there's kind of a midsection that gets a bit crazy, but it's used very, very well. Like dimly lit sometimes, and just the right way.
It felt like old Hollywood with sets.
Well, yeah.
There's only two parts where that kind of jumped out at me, the way that it looked. One is, I don't know what it is about films and having people fall off collapsing roofs, and why that never looks good from a kind of a digital point standpoint.
Was that in the desert when the
at the very beginning?
So interesting enough, that was not digital at all. That was a real effect. They actually had a collapsing building set with Tom Cruise himself rolling off.
Definitely, maybe it was the green screen on it, or there's something about it. Like that definitely wasn't.
I'm not denying that it wasn't
collapsing.
Necessarily amazingly shot, but that's how they filmed it.
It does. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Which is they probably did some digital over the top
stuff.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe add some dirt specs or something.
Might have been. It might have been that caught my eye. I don't know about you guys. I wasn't quite sure, and I suppose that's kind of a key feature of it, but I got a bit of an uncanny valley with the actual mummy.
Sofia Boutella.
Yeah, so when they're having a conversation about midway through the film, there's just a little bit. There's
something going on with her face.
Yeah,
I think maybe because they had to do the effects on her eyes because she has two.
But there's also like CGI effects on the kind of rotten parts of her face, and you could just see like little bandages that were just blurred out on this side. So I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more practical effect in that. I got a little bit of the uncanny valley where it was just not quite right.
I didn't feel that at all.
But ultimately, it was a small quip in that.
Now,
Like, it
Connor,
wasn't-
if they had touched up all the CG,
Don't you son of a bitch.
would you have enjoyed it more?
Just back to Alex Kurtzman for a sec. I really want to back you up, George. I was really impressed by his, because I haven't seen his directorial debut. No, none of us has, I think. But I know him as the writer of Cowboys and Aliens, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
One of the writers on each of those films, at least. So I did not have a high opinion of Alex
shit.
Kurtzman.
He co-wrote a lot with Roberto Orci.
Yeah.
Who
Star
did
Trek films.
Star Trek
Yeah.
films. Like those guys were kind of like working with JJ on a lot of projects.
They were, writing partners. They're gone their separate ways now.
Yeah.
But I thought he did a good job on this movie, which I don't think overall turned out to be amazing in any way. But I think he did well.
I think like just the camera work was great. I think the way he sculpted the scenes, I think the pacing in the first half was really well executed. I think the little like montagey Lord of the Rings kind of opening that they do where, this is the origin of the mummy.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. It just felt like there was a finger on the pulse. But then, as I said at the beginning, the agenda that he had to attend to with the setting up the shared universe, that is the problem with this film.
I think
Yeah.
we can all safely agree that the craftsmanship of this film was really kind of on point.
Yep.
How about all the performances? I thought Tom Cruise was doing less of just playing Tom Cruise that he normally does.
Definitely.
Like this wasn't just Ethan Hunt. Like he was kind of an interesting, kind of roguish, treasure hunter, rascally
I
character.
can't remember Tom Cruise playing like a deceptive character.
Yeah.
Like he is in a lot of ways a bad dude.
Yeah, and just,
well, I thought of Edge of Tomorrow, where he's this weaselly.
Well, but
kind
in
of-
Edge of Tomorrow, he's kind of like a Weasley PR guy thrown into a soldier role, and he quickly adapts to that. I feel like in
that's
this,
an origin story of Tom Cruise. Like that's him
Yeah.
turning into Tom
he
Cruise.
turns into Tom Cruise. Like in this, he doesn't turn into Tom Cruise by the end.
Yeah, he's a real Nathan Drakey kind of guy, which I really dug.
I found that he. I don't know if the kind of roguish humor aspect of that really plays on, because every time I see him, all I'm seeing is just Tom Cruise, and I think that he put in an effort to walk away or to kind of try and take his performance away from
Differentiate
that.
himself. Yeah.
I don't know that he quite got there, but it was certainly the least Tom Cruisey I've seen him play.
Yeah.
In a
there's
long
like
while.
there's dudes out there that you just can't, like DiCaprio, Brad Pitt. I mean, Brad Pitt's actually very good at transforming.
And I'd even say DiCaprio. Like if you think about him, in,
I guess it's just sometimes like those guys, like we're so exposed to them that it's sometimes hard to, you're watching, like, I don't know, a lot of the time when I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio on screen and I'm loving the performance, but he's not necessarily transforming into that.
Yeah, I
that
see Leonardo
character.
DiCaprio acting as this character.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Yeah, look, Tom Cruise is certainly not where this film fails, or is certainly not the worst part of this film, anything like that. I also liked Sofia Boutella. I thought that her
really cool.
And she was particularly cast for this, I believe, because of the way that she moves in kind of unorthodox ways.
Dancer.
She's kind of carved out a niche for herself in Hollywood for that
she's
kind
done
of character.
what
Star Trek,
Physical
yeah.
performances.
Kingsman.
Kingsman. I think he saw her in Kingsman, and the way that she was moving was like, that's who I want to play. And I think it pulled it off.
They do some legitimately creepy stuff with her in this movie. Just some of the way she crawls around. It's very like J-horror kind of thing.
Okay, I'll tell you what. The design of Set at the beginning of this, it's like a Del Toro
the God of Death.
The production design in this film is so good. And the actual design of the mummy, and the mummy coming back to life, and that sort of the visual kind of metamorphosis that happens with that, I thought was really well handled and really interesting and creepy.
Yeah. This was more of a successful horror film than I expected it to be. I thought it would really just be completely action adventure, but there was some creepy scenes in there, and I think that's really promising for the Dark Universe moving forward.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it was overly scary. There's no points where I was really freaked out.
Oh no, definitely. But I think for something that's aimed more at general audiences,
gonna be-
Yeah,
probably
it's certainly
M-rated.
more horror than I expected.
there's
it to
going
be,
to
so
be
I
some
totally agree with you on
12-year-olds
that. Yeah,
getting creeped out by this, I think.
yeah.
and there was some really cool gags with the zombies. She had. Is that a spoiler?
No. When he's kind of punching them.
Yeah, he
and-
punches through the zombie.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that was so cool. I don't
was-
think I'd ever seen that before.
Well,
entertaining.
it was very much the old Mummy, like the '90s Brendan Fraser kind of.
Did that happen in the old?
Yeah,
Mummies one?
those kind of gags with those
Okay.
little henchman
Dusty.
mummies.
Yeah, okay.
It was
Zombie
very
mummies.
reminiscent.
I just
of that.
really liked that. I thought that was fun and a cool
Yeah,
Cool
that was
little
one of kind of the little shining moments of this
visual.
film. I did want to ask you guys, what did you think about the relationship or the chemistry between Tom Cruise and Annabelle Wallis? So she played Jenny in this, his love interest.
I liked her in it. As far as the chemistry, whatever.
Yeah, there was one scene where, oh man, I was just like, why are you guys doing this whole romantic lovey-dovey shit right now?
I
Move on.
totally didn't get that entire aspect of this film. Felt
was
so
so-
flat. Like she didn't really to me seem overly necessary in this film, which was a massive disappointment for me.
I liked her as the archaeological expert, the Egyptologist or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you would
just
call it.
as in an adventure film sense, just having this little band of characters to play off each other. I thought.
Yeah,
worked well in that
there's
way.
a lot of her involvement in this that I just didn't get. And there's one of the other things that really confused me is that there was a mention that I wasn't sure how much they knew each other before the beginning of this film. There was one mention of that they had just met, and then his buddy was talking about how you messed it up with Jenny. And I was like, were they an item before? Like, is there a backstory to this? I don't think that was well set
I
up.
think just the fact that she liked him. I thought she
For a
thought
night
they had a
or
good
for-
time.
Yeah, I think it's just that. Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was
that
it.
might have been. Yeah, that might have been it. To me, it didn't quite gel.
I thought his relationship with the funny guy of this movie, which is
Chris
Jake
Vale?
Johnson.
Yeah.
Johnson. Yeah,
That was way more. I felt way more connection between them.
Oh,
I really enjoyed Jake Johnson in this film.
He was amazing.
We won't talk about
any
the
spoilers? or
story in
anything, but
particular.
yeah.
We'll get into that later. But
Yeah. He was
a
awesome.
fun character. Yeah,
And him at the beginning, that was so fun. The camaraderie between them.
yeah.
I think
I would have
that's where
liked to
the
have seen
film was-
more of him throughout this
Yeah.
film.
He was really
I
a
think-
fun comic character.
Yeah.
In a movie that I just did not expect to have
No.
any humor in it at all.
Yeah.
And the scenes where the banter between them, that's when the film was firing on all cylinders.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We
100%.
we ready to give our recommendations and get into spoilers?
What I'll say, I'll reiterate the fact that I didn't think it was particularly good. I didn't think it was bad. It was incredibly middling. I think it's probably the best way I can say it is throughout this entire film. Oddly enough, as I said before, all I wanted to do was turn this off and watch the '90s version. And that's just a weird thing to say, but it's everything that I thought that this film attempted to do. The '90s film did it better. It was funnier. It was more lighthearted. It was scarier.
Well, for me, I enjoyed the first half of this movie, as I've said several times, so much that I would almost recommend it. I guess, if you're interested, check it out. I think it's better than I expected. Certainly, the back half is very meh, and the setup for the Dark Universe it doesn't really hit very hard. But I'm still they're trying so hard to make this work. So I'm going to keep following it. So I'm going to watch every movie in there. So I can't not watch this one.
So if someone was kind of 50-50 on whether they should see this film, they're kind of, would you recommend that they kind of push it and go?
I
and
wouldn't
watch?
stake my reputation on it at all. I would very much say I enjoyed this a lot. The critics are savaging it, sort of. So
I don't think it needs to be savage as much as it's getting.
Not
I
at all.
really
No.
don't.
It's
I
crazy.
think
I
it's,
keep seeing these stupid articles. I'm so sick of people referencing Rotten Tomatoes scores as
Yeah.
a reflection
That's
of the
really
quality
annoying.
of the
Yeah.
film, because they're saying it's Tom Cruise's worst movie ever. I'm like, no, are you insane?
Yeah. Did you watch Jack Reacher 2? Jesus.
no one did.
I did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
God.
people and particularly a lot of major news sites have zero understanding about how Rotten Tomatoes
Oh, they
works.
understand. It's just
Or
headlines.
they
want
understand, they
people to
just don't
click it.
care.
Yeah.
Either way, it's just as bad.
Anyway, yeah, I can't really give a solid recommendation. I don't know. Make your own mind up. I liked it. But
You have one job on this
no, I know.
podcast.
That's what I think. I liked it, but I don't want to try and convince anyone else to go to see it.
Yeah, I
'cause
think
feel
if
like
you're
they'll be like, fuck you, it's
predisposed-
terrible, yeah.
If you're predisposed to being interested in this film, go check it out.
Yeah, kind of monster movie stuff. I
Yeah.
love monster movies and creature features and stuff, so I'm already kind of half in the bag.
The mummy herself is probably worth watching in this film. She's really cool.
I think for me, as I said, the first 30 minutes was outstanding. And by the time I left the cinema after the second half, which was massively disappointing, I actually felt let down by this film.
Yeah.
Because it does so many things really, really, really well. And unfortunately, the fact that it has the agenda of setting up the universe and dedicating so much time to that it cannibalizes the film, and it doesn't get to be what it needs to be. Now, in saying that, in 2 to 3 years' time, once we've got all the other films, will that help to improve The Mummy? It could. It definitely could, once we see this in the context of everything else. But right now, as The Mummy stands, it is an okay film, and I'll go with you, Benny. Go check it out. Watch the first 45 minutes, and then to head home.
Catch it on Netflix. I reckon.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
those.
probably. That's probably a really good.
This is like when it's raining outside.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything really important anyways, and you just want to chuck on a film.
But I'll definitely go ahead and say fuck the critics, because this is not nearly as bad as people are saying.
Yeah. I actually went into this film trying to give it every advantage it could have, because I had read some headlines before saying it's, it's such a bad film, and I get so against when I hear these kind of sensationalized titles.
And that's not the critics. All of the reviews I've read have been very lukewarm, which will count towards a negative review on Rotten Tomatoes. That's why it has such a low score, because they've all been saying essentially what we're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like people are bashing it a bit more.
They want to. They want to. They still. Tom Cruise, man, he just keeps making good movie after good movie, I feel, for the most part. But people just still want to he jumped on a couch.
Yeah. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, how much of a 180 that dude has done on his career. Like, I know he's still, people bash him, but I feel like from where he was a few years ago,
but that's
he
not
was
even
considered a piece of shit.
Yeah, but that's just his personal life, which, whatever, fair enough. Make up your own mind about that. But movie-wise, he's had a fucking consistent career right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's because he's a producer and he takes control of his own destiny.
He's a bona fide movie star, man.
Yeah.
And all his films have just kick-ass action scenes, because they're like practically done.
And there was this great thing that I shared on the Podcast Strikes Back Facebook, the behind the scenes of the stunts that happens in this film.
Well, we can talk about this in spoilers.
With Russell Crowe, yeah.
okay.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
let's
okay,
move into spoilers right away. This, if you haven't seen the film and you are going to see the film, pause it here, come back after you've seen it. You can see what we thought of the spoilers. And if you don't care, continue listening. Fuck it. Do what you want. You're an adult, probably.
As usual, we're more entertaining than the movie. So just
So straight into spoilers. Why don't we just talk about what you were mentioning before, George, is that little caveat or that video showing Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe in their, fight together is a really cool insight to how he just kind of goes balls to the wall when it comes to these fight scenes.
He's a veteran.
And everything
He
you
is
see
a
on the screen
veteran.
in the movie is pretty much happening in a frame
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the set, which is really cool.
He
really cool.
Like, you can just see he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, he's kicking very precisely. Like, he's missing Russell Crowe's face by, a couple
I
centimeters.
reckon he could have, if he ever gives up acting, he could have a solid career as a stunt coordinator, because
Definitely.
that dude would know so much at this point.
He would know so much.
Apparently, he's an absolute gun at driving and like doing all the car
running.
stunts.
He's very good at running.
running.
What did you guys think of the Russell Crowe's Jekyll and kind of how
Yeah,
him
we haven't
being the
talked about
connective
him yet.
tissue and that whole scene?
So
how
I
kind of was sandwiched into this film?
I kind of thought right from before this film that this is what was really going to hook me into this film. I was thinking about that Hellboy organization. I just thought they didn't quite get there. I thought that having seen it and kind of thinking about it retrospectively, I would have much rather this been its own little mummy film. I think they kind of like
Would have to have been better.
yeah, I think that you either pull back from the organization and like don't kind of
I
involve
think
it
it
as
should have
much,
just been
or
sprinkled in a little bit more.
yeah, either sprinkled it in a little bit or go kind of full bore with that. But I think they kind of half-assed it.
I don't feel like it was too intrusive, honestly. I don't think there was that much in there. Like, it was just that
But there
Russell
was
Crowe bit.
Dude, there was a bit in this film, man, where it really slacked off and the pacing went off, and they were fucking around in that facility for so long.
I'm not saying
I
it was
getting
good.
bored.
I just don't think it was that significant a chunk of the movie.
I thought it felt like, for me, I was getting fatigued and I wanted it to move, because there was a chunk in this film where there was no like middle set piece of this film.
Did you enjoy everything past where the Mummy got released or where she broke out?
I didn't like the London chase at all with all the
that was
glass flying
horrific.
everywhere. That was weird.
That was
And you know
really
that bit
bad.
where the bus is sliding down the road and he like gets in it. That was another one, like the roof collapsing, that was completely practical. Like, they had a bus sliding down the road and Tom Cruise. Yeah, but you don't get a sense of that by watching the
not
film,
at all.
unfortunately.
Not at all.
Everything post her escaping, I was incredibly bored. I was legitimately like from that moment on bored by this film. Like when
Yeah.
they're running away from the dust, nothing.
Yeah.
When they're like swimming in that cave, nothing.
I didn't
Alien Resurrection.
I didn't mind that. I liked the zombies swimming and chasing them. I thought that was cool, but it was too little, too late for me. At
I
that
very much
stage.
enjoyed, at very least, just how much he got slapped around at the end. That was,
Yeah.
man, he got the shit made out. Just that one where he really runs at her and she slaps him
yeah.
right down on the ground. It was so well staged.
Yeah.
It looked fucking brutal.
No,
Yeah.
that was cool, and that set was great. It was
It was a set,
That was
which-
old Hollywood. That's
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah.
talking about before, like that man-made
It makes a difference.
physical set.
It
It
looks
really does.
good.
But for me, it had done too many things wrong in that second act for me to really be invested at that stage.
I kind of liked the dialogue. Like I think it wasn't quite there, but I didn't mind the dialogue between him and the mummy while she was chained up, or kind of even between him and Jekyll. It was
But literally, what happened in that second act? Russell Crowe was talking about monsters for half the time.
yeah.
Like,
I
do you know
like-
where did it propel the
I
story?
like the way that they set him up, though, and this is just for future films, doesn't help this movie at all, but the way they set him up is this very Nick Fury character, so much better than the MCU Nick Fury, which is this guy who is not afraid to fucking hurt innocent people to do the right thing, which is Nick Fury in the comics. He does evil shit because he's just protecting the world from the shadows, which is very much what they're doing with this guy. But man, he was chewing that scenery, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What did you think about?
Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. What did you think about his hide? Essentially,
I like to hope that wasn't a full transformation, maybe, or
Yeah.
maybe there's a little bit more to it. But yeah, man, he's looking fat, isn't he? After the Nice Guys, what a solid body he's got there. You
His
can
gut
really get the
is-
feeling like that Tom Cruise would not be able to do any damage to him because he's just like
Solid.
bam, bam, yeah.
But Russell Crowe, he brings levity to the role. He owned it, I thought. I just think script-wise, story-wise, it didn't work. But performance-wise, I think Russell Crowe is a great choice. I like this interpretation of Jekyll. I think there's room to grow here.
yeah. You know, my kind of encapsulates what I thought about this is I thought it was such a cool character, but when he delves into like that monologue about I had a patient I just felt like that was just a cool moment before it, then goes in the monologue, very boring.
Specifically zoned out at that point. I remember he got to the end of that speech. I'm like, "Fuck, what was he talking about?"
Yeah. Well, he was obviously talking about himself, and he's like, and luckily he was a surgeon, and you're
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm very
Let me
bored by
tell
this.
you a story.
Yeah, I was like,
It's like, oh, so a story about you. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I know where this
Tell
is
me.
going.
Tell me the story.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This film, like, it's funny. I was talking with a friend of ours, Kieran Gilfeather, who we should get him on the podcast sometime. But we were talking about tropes, and this film has so many Hollywood tropes in it. Like, it's almost like so ham-fisted with them. Like, I've seen them all before.
Like
And
the
that's
monologue, I suppose.
that pastiche element.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like cobbled together. This is what you should do. This is how you do this kind of scene. And
The Brendan Fraser mummy was very much the same, though, and I think that's kind of cool for these Universal movies. They should be throwbacks.
Yeah.
To
That's
these
true.
really
That's
old.
true.
That kind of works for me.
But I think they kind of got caught between two agendas,
Yeah.
which is where that, like, I think where you have the mummy, the original, or sorry, not the original, but the 90s mummy is very much, it's filled with tropes. It's right in that kind of, that era of that, and it kind of owns it. Whereas this one is trying to hark back to that a little bit, but also try and be the newer, more polished, kind of shared universe version of that story. I think they just kind of got a little bit too separated in two directions.
All right. What do we think about the very ending, how Tom Cruise ends up and his role in this universe?
You know
loved
what?
it. I
That
loved
was
it.
actually probably the best part of this for me.
He's like the god of death now or something?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's the mummy.
I love that he just yells her back to life and then he's all in the shadows and creepy. That's very old monster movie sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that was a great point to finish up on.
He brought back Jake Johnson to be his old buddy.
Yeah.
Still.
I love that little
that was so
exposition.
funny.
Like, I'm really glad that you brought me
me back
back.
to-
And I
yeah.
was like, oh.
And then they're back, and they're back in the desert exactly where they were at the beginning of the film. And I was
The
like, nothing
sandstorm.
changed except
Yeah.
I'm the god of death.
I hope that it's not just when he's riding horses that he has a giant sandstorm behind him. Like he's just on a bus and there's like a giant sandstorm just flying behind him.
Driving a car, riding a bike down the road.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
God.
It's on a scooter. It's just a
What have you been
sandstorm.
doing for the last 3 years? Just running away with this fucking sandstorm.
Following me.
Yeah, but let's talk a little bit about Jake Johnson because I like when he died. I was like, no, this guy's great. We're only getting him for this much of the film, and then he keeps coming back in the zombie.
Yeah. And
with one eye.
His death scene is amazing.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
This is actually the moment where I thought Tom Cruise can pull off this role because it was a genuinely funny moment where he shoots him like the third time.
Yeah.
That's such a lovely little nugget of comedy within this film.
Yeah, and the fact that he's like dead and hangs around, it completely ripped off from An American Werewolf in London. But so good. Like I love the way he's just still him. Like he's not like some evil spirit or something.
Yeah,
he's
he's
like,
like,
hey man, come with me right now. Sorry, come here.
Yeah.
So good.
Come
And I
with
was
me.
thinking about that. I was like, the evil spirit would want you to act normal and you just like use it as a puppet.
Yeah, like he was still working for her.
Yeah.
Like he was doing what she wanted, but he was just being him. It was
That
so good.
mirror scene I really liked in the pub.
Yeah.
And I liked he didn't have he was missing an eye, and I liked his
He
the
looked
look.
bad. Man.
I think the look of the zombies was really well realized.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, I like that first scene where the cops find the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
That was creepy, man.
That was cool.
Yeah. And just like the effect of them coming back to life and like shambling along.
Yeah.
Very
There's
nicely
something
done.
about that, like, kind of weird walking zombie.
Yeah. They did that
erratic
well.
thing. Yeah. It's always effective.
Yeah.
It's if not particularly new, it is effective. I was going to say, did you guys notice the little Easter egg, the throwback to the original Mummy? Or the 90s Mummy?
Was
I
it
keep
the
saying
plane?
original. Sorry, the plane?
The giant plane that they were in?
No.
I mean, certainly
Did you
there
get
was I did, yeah. I mean, other than the giant face in the sandstorm, which was very much that original thing. Yeah, but go on.
It's the book of death or book of life. I'm not sure which one it was. So she knocks out the henchman in the glass library with the book set piece from the original, or again, not the original, the 90s Mummy.
Oh, so it's the same prop?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a cool little nod.
Yeah.
Very
Cool.
direct
Something that
nod.
would be in that
in that
building.
library, yeah. It makes me interested. When I saw that, I thought of it as a nod, and then when I thought back to it, it's almost like a little invitation to bring back. They could do it.
They could do it. They fucking don't do it. Jesus.
They could be like, this has happened before, and bring back Brendan Fraser with his little pistols and.
You know what they should do is they should give him the same makeup that they gave Guy Pearce in Prometheus and make him an old as fuck Brendan Fraser.
He is an old as fuck Brendan Fraser.
Bring him
He's an old
back.
dude now.
And make it look terrible and go, welcome to the shared universe.
Yeah. Why not?
Welcomes. What else? I think I've pretty much, for me, I think I've got everything I want to get out about this film.
It kind of encapsulates what I said. It's not good or bad enough
I
to
thought
be
the
really
origin
interesting.
story was really cool. The flashbacks and the design of the creature and Sofia Boutella.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well executed.
Well, we've got 15 more Dark Universe movies on the way,
Jesus.
so
Yeah. So what is up next?
Is it
in
Frankenstein?
Okay, Bride of Frankenstein is the only planned movie to be dated thus far, releasing in February 2019.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's a big wait.
Big wait.
and this, I guess part of that will allow them to see how successful this film has been. I know it's not big enough to really hit notoriety yet, but I think you mentioned, Ben, that the projections are that this will make a fair chunk of cash.
Well, supposedly it's on track. I don't know how it's going so far, but the projections said it might be Tom Cruise's biggest global opening, which is really weird and interesting.
That is interesting.
That's big.
His movies have been, I guess he's such a global star that his movies have been doing really well overseas.
Yeah.
In other markets. I think like Edge of Tomorrow, like 80% of its gross was like
China,
outside of
Japan,
America.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I mean, I like this movie enough to want it to do well because I'm kind of a little bit on board with the Dark Universe at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I think, as I said, it could be, once we get the other films and we see the context, I think this could improve The Mummy. Once we understand the actual shared universe mechanic and what they're going for, that whole second half with the BPRD, what are they? I don't even know what they're called in this.
They name it in the film.
This organization.
The
Still
organization,
working that out.
Yeah.
it could make more sense, and the justification behind that decision, maybe it'll all fit together. But yeah, this is a Netflix movie.
Yeah,
Do you
ultimately, I think that as you said, had we not had to do the podcast on it, I probably would have waited until later. I just don't think it's worth really jumping to the cinema.
Do you guys want to see Luke Evans come back as Dracula?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
I
what I do.
I thought he was really cool as Dracula.
Yeah.
So
I didn't think that this movie was any worse or better than the Luke Evans Dracula film.
Yeah. So it was funny that they were so willing to drop that. I wonder how they're going to feel about the Dark Universe after the critical reaction to this film, which has been very negative.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. It's been a good, I think it's a decent start though. I don't think it's a,
it's not worth
BVS.
trashing the entire shared universe over a couple of bad critic reviews.
Don't DC this thing. Don't just completely change course because of one ill-received movie. I just want to quickly say there is something at least Dark Universe related that I'm very excited for. Way Forward is releasing a game based on this movie.
Oh, really?
The Mummy Declassified, I think it's called. Way Forward, they're known for the Shantae games. Awesome 2D side-scrollers, really cool throwback games. I'm looking forward to that.
Those are the ones that you get to like choose the kind of story as it unfolds?
Nope, absolutely not.
Nope, completely wrong? Cool, never mind.
hey.
Alrighty.
Well, that was fun, guys. Be sure to check out our weekly show every Sunday, Top 8 Movie News. And hit us up on Facebook, Instagram at The Podcast Strikes Back. We're also on iTunes and YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a like and comment. We want to hear what you thought of The Mummy. Let us know. We love talking movies. That's what we're here for. Aren't we, guys, right?
That's the idea.
Or just hating.
Even though we kind of told you not to watch it yet, we want to know what you thought of it.
It's been a pleasure, Connor.
Bye.
And Benny.
See you, George.
See you guys. Connor, you didn't say hello. I'm so upset.